Today's podcast audit is for the Side Hustle Show with Nick Loper. And I have his Spotify opened up. I don't care about Apple right now. Got his website, Chartable, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that good stuff is opened up, and we're going to review an episode. So one that caught my attention was about a pet waste removal. Basically, someone who has a poop scooping business. And I had a memory of someone in California who used to do that for us. And I thought it was such a good service to have, and I always wondered how much they scaled. So this is someone along the same lines. It's a 53-minute episode that I audited, or that I'm going to audit, and I'll go between YouTube and Spotify. And if this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Rich Cardona, and I love to audit podcasts, and I'm on a mission to just kind of audit the top 200 business podcasts or anything in entrepreneurship, just because you need clues on how to improve your podcast. And I also want you to know that there's people who are podcasting who are top ranked that are not absolutely crushing it, or not amazing hosts, or that do make mistakes. So let's get into the Side Hustle Show with Nick Loper. Here we go. So I'm going to go ahead into Spotify first because audio is usually different than YouTube. I will probably be on YouTube most of the time, but the audio experience is different. So I want to go ahead and check out the first minute. So let's go ahead and get started. Here we go.
This is scaling up a local service side hustle to full-time, multi-six figures in the pet waste removal niche. What's up, Nick Loper here. Welcome to the Side Hustle Show, part of the Entrepreneur Podcast Network.
Nice.
Because your 9 to 5 may make you a living, but your 5 to 9 makes you alive. Pumped for this one. We first heard from today's guest in early 2020. She was earning around $1,000 a week from her part-time pooper scooper business, and since then has grown it now serving almost 200 weekly residential customers at an average ticket price of $99 a month from poopin'scoopin.com. Erica Kruppen, welcome back to the Side Hustle Show.
Thanks for having me back again. I'm super excited.
You bet. I love building on these series and encourage everybody to check out the first appearances of Erica on the show. We'll link those up, of course. But stick around. In this one, you'll learn what's working today from a marketing standpoint, how Erica raised prices and started landing bigger clients, and how she's removed herself from the fulfillment side of things, the backyard physical labor, poop and scooping side of things, to really step into that CEO role. Now, your listener-only bonus for this week is my local business marketing checklist, some simple ideas that you can implement to get more customers for your service. You can download that for free at the show notes for this episode. Just follow the link in the episode description. That's the easiest way, and it'll get you right over there. Now, I want to share a really cool moment that was cool for me. So we're visiting friend.
Okay, so here's what I would say. That was smooth. Clearly, Nick has been podcasting for a while, 614 episodes at least. It took 44 seconds before the actual guest said something. Some of the other podcasts we've audited, the guest doesn't talk for like minutes or 10 minutes, which is awful. So yes, all she did say was like she was happy to be there, but he gave a really good initial kind of synopsis. She said he introduced her by minute 40 or by 44 seconds into it, and she acknowledged. Then I don't know if he did this after, but he kind of went into a little bit of he went into a CTA for his listener resource or his listener prize or whatever he called it. And he did that, really slid it in there perfectly, in my opinion. And we're now at a minute 26 seconds and we're getting into the actual episode. So being able to cover a quick introduction of what your podcast is about super quickly like that, having the guest speak within the first minute is huge. And then sliding in his CTA for his free resource. And now we're starting the episode at a minute 26. That's freaking good. Check this out. This is on the YouTube side. So he does a preview clip. And it doesn't actually cover what the episode's going to be about, but listen to this.
And Side Hustle Nation actually has a special place in my heart because I listened to your podcast when I was working my 9 to 5, hoping that I was just going to be able to make it out of that job. And when I did, I reached out to you because I wanted to be on your podcast because you were huge.
Okay. Freaking testimonial of him, of the podcast, of what he conveys in the podcast. So that's basically like, you cannot ask for something better. So I think for Nick, super awesome, amazing. Let's just cover her. Let me Okay, so let's look at YouTube for a second. So I already have stuff on Spotify in this. I mean, we're barely into this thing. So on the YouTube side, it looks like I think she's trying to build a podcast studio. I think those two things are lights. She's looking down at him, which means the camera that she's using is up here. I completely get. My screen for my laptop is right here, and if I'm on a call or if I'm on a podcast, like looking down here versus looking up here is very, very different. It's going to be different for the person interviewing you, and it's also going to be different for the viewing audience. So basically, I don't know if she actually looks at the camera. Let's go ahead and check it out.
Well, I appreciate
I was working my 9 to 5, hoping that I was just going to be able to make it.
it's probably a pretty sticky service bag dispenser.
Do you think you want to see
She does it. Okay, so she does a good job of like going up and of looking up at the camera. That's good for connecting with the audience. But otherwise, as far as lighting and background, I mean, there's nothing going on here. So, and that's fine. It's not necessarily up on the guest, but I did a little research on her, and she does have a podcast. So I would encourage her to kind of step it up a little bit. So get that thing a little bit down to eye level. There's a bunch of headroom up here. These lights aren't on. If there is a light on, I would maybe, I'm not sure, but this is extremely bland. And I already kind of took the liberty of going to check if there's any, B-roll or anything like that. It's literally just going to be talking head the whole time, which is not awful, but when you got 32K subs and 316 views, that probably means your videos could be a little bit more dynamic. And this is not a dig. None of this is ever a dig. This is just objective, okay? Because I actually think she's extremely personable, and I think she's got some really good stuff. So that's one of the first thing that stands out is that her background is not that crazy. And let's go ahead and look at Nick real quick.
$15 a week, 15 to $18 a week.
This sounds different for whatever reason on YouTube. It sounds crackly versus how it sounds audio wise on just an audio only platform. But Nick, I always freaking pause on people blinking. It's awful. But anyway, let's look at his background. That's a closet. That's a painting. There's nothing crazy. The lighting's decent. Headphones, big freaking mic right in front of his face. Headroom's okay. He looks clear. But the reason I'm pointing this out to you is because this dude has a top 50 entrepreneurship podcast, top 200 business podcast, has killed it. And I am assuming if we went back to episode 1, it's probably not better than this. So this just goes to show you that you do not always need an amazing setup. You do need consistency. You do need good content. And it seems like that's what's going on right here. Okay, we're going to take a break from sharing for a second. And I'm just going to tell you a pretty big observation. Nick does a pretty good job of keeping his questions concise for the most part. There's a couple places where he wants to add a little bit more context leading into his question. But I could see him thinking of the question he's going to ask as he's asking it, which means it's not super pre-planned, right? Like he's going off of the guest. He's listening to her and then basically adding a question that's going to take it further or deeper. He's pulling on the thread, as I like to say. So I think that's like that's just a great podcast host move where they're doing 90% of the talking and you're doing 10% of the talking, where you're able to just add on to something good that they're saying, not take away from it or shift directions because that's what you planned on doing. Now, I want to show you a couple things here. So these right here are called chapters, obviously, okay? And it's all chaptered out, and there's not timestamps down here per se. They don't have clickable ones here for the chapters, but at least you could hover over it. The problem with that is, it's not a problem. That's great. They're clearly thinking about the user, but there are not timestamps or chapters, so to speak, here, which you can make chapters on Apple and you can make clickable timestamps on Spotify. This is clickable, as you can see. Okay, so if you did it for YouTube, you definitely should do it for Spotify. Not to mention the fact that it's a video podcast without using Spotify video podcasts, which is growing exponentially. Now the only reluctance Nick may have is because he knows his audience is primarily going to be audio only. But given the option based off Spotify's recent reports is that it's increasing month over month that people will actually want to watch you. I don't know anything about Nick, but I might want to connect with him more. That's why people put their podcasts on YouTube in the first place, is to have a better connection with the host and all those other things. Now, if you think about like back in the day, or even now, if you listen to radio, don't you ever wonder what someone looks like sometimes? Do you feel like you connect with them better if you could see their mannerisms, see how they talk, how they act, and just it just connects you more. And not only that, but there is evidence that you will retain more if you watch and listen and you have that connection with them. So it's not on Spotify. So there's no timestamps here. Okay. And there is no video podcast, which it's not a mistake. It's probably a preference, but I just wonder what the consideration was. I would definitely, if you already did it for YouTube, you might as well put it on Spotify. Now check this out. Okay, so he's got at least 4 sponsors. So Ladder, clickable. Indeed, clickable. Small Business Podcast, clickable. I don't know what that is actually. Let's open it up. Taylor Brands, and let's see. Interesting. I don't know what that means or what it does, but I don't really care. So but look, like he's got 4 sponsors. So in one way or another, something's happening here, which means financially, which means he's totally offsetting the cost of production, or he's probably making money. Now that's where this comes in. You can probably make money here if you have 32,000 subscribers and are a little bit more diligent about high quality video or B-roll. But again, it might just be a preference thing. Now, while we're talking about sponsors, let's get to the first point where sponsors are actually introduced, or where there's an ad. It's at about, let's see here, 34% of the way into the episode, which is good. And let's go ahead and check it out real quick.
More with Erica in just a moment, including the tech platform she uses to keep all the customers and jobs organized, and how she's collected over 370 Google reviews, towering above the competition, right after this.
Okay, so that was about 10 seconds. It's a preview that an ad's coming. He's literally telling you he's going to take a break, but he is Nick. Good stuff here, man. The reason it's good is because he's telling you what you're going to hear when you come back. So he's telling you, like, you're coming back. Just get through these ads real quick and you're coming right back. So he tells you what you're going to hear, and he does not reveal a platform she uses to get Google reviews. But if you are someone who is a side hustle person and you're trying to grow your business, so you leave your 9-to-5 like he is trying to help you to do, then you're going to want to hear what another small business owner is using. So I thought that was fantastic. And here we go with the ads.
That's the sound of another sale on your online Shopify store. But did you know Shopify powers in-person selling too? It's true. Shopify is the sound of selling everywhere. Online, in-store, on social media, and beyond. Shopify POS is your command center for your retail store.
Now an ambassador for them.
To take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/side hustle. When you're hiring, it feels amazing to finally close out a job search.
Okay, so basically, here's what happened. And these are dynamically inserted, meaning like when I gave this a shot earlier, it was Indeed, and then it was Shopify. Now, look, here's the thing. I just recently was listening to a study about how host-read ads are so much more impactful, but it's way more impactful if the host actually use the product. The people are going to your show to listen to you anyway. So number one, host-read ads, smart. Indeed, is he really using Indeed? Maybe, maybe not. So it's going to feel a little bit more flat. The Shopify ad, that's the same Shopify. Y'all need to freaking figure this thing out, because you give everyone the same copy and it's so corny and boring and it's not personalized. Give the host a creative freedom to, just talk about it in their way if they use it. Again, so like this is one of those things. The sponsors, Ladder, Indeed, which we just covered. This is a Small Business Podcast, and Taylor Brands. Shopify's not on there. So he's got multiple sponsors. But what I would say is just, if you use it, cool. If you don't use Shopify, then I guess take the money, right? You take the money and just read their bullshit ad. But 2 minutes and 29 seconds total. your audience had to go through. So the problem with ads sometimes, especially if you're not in control of where they're going to be dynamically inserted, which means there's a system that inserts them for you where it believes people should listen, is that there can be that much time away from your audience versus maybe on a 50-minute episode putting one every 10 minutes or something along those lines. Anyway, let's get back to it. All right, now we're going to look at, I just wanted to highlight the guest because she just does a really, really fantastic job. And part of a podcast like this is that like the audience is in the same shoes as her in more ways than not. Most guests, I'm sure it's going to be exactly that way. So here's something that I thought was really good. And this is, again, why you need timestamps for someone, I don't know, let's just say me, I wanted to start a business and maybe it's not related to dog poop or anything like that. But this challenge that she has is real.
Sure.
To this day, I don't like spending money on ads. Over the spring, like early spring, Facebook was getting me for like $600, $700, $800, $1,200 because I was trying to pump money into ads. And it's just, for me, I don't think I had them set up right, so it didn't work. So what I've been doing is just getting more intentional with the strategy and trying to get away from the fluff, right? Just like who we are, what we do, how to get in touch with us, because people, they don't want to read long posts anymore, at least from my experience when it comes to like the dog waste removal stuff. And putting those keywords in there and just consistently.
So this is a pain we could all feel. A lot of small business owners, depending on whether you're service-based or brick and mortar or whatever it is, like, dude, we're not necessarily interested in spending on ads, especially if we're not sure if they're going to work, because even if they work a little bit, it just costs you more and more and more. So I just thought that was great. She goes on a little bit later talking about how she doesn't know some of the business terms about lifetime value and churn rate and all these other things. But yeah. So I just thought she was just she's a fantastic guest. We're going to do maybe a couple more little things, and then we're going to get on to the websites and his socials. Here we go. All right, here's something interesting I caught. He gives a preview. He gives a preview for ads that are coming, and he also did what he did before, is a preview about what you'll hear when you get back right after this, and let's see what happens. Watch.
That seems very profitable and potentially very scalable. More with Erica in just a moment, including why she's built the crappiest channel on YouTube and what's surprised her the most over the last 5 years, right after this. You did mention these guys.
So the ads never came. I thought that was interesting. And I also just noticed his podcast voice. He was very normal during the podcast, but for the ads, it's more like, and right after this, he just kind of adopts that podcast persona. I don't think you need to do that when you're getting the ads, but it's a good tease. So no hate on that, of course. At minute 48, he gets to ask her the final tips she has for Side Hustle Nation, which is always fantastic. And that is it. So let's get off of Spotify and let's get out of here as well. So obviously, if you can see here, the biggest opportunity is on YouTube. 32,000 subscribers, 316 views for a really good episode. It wasn't July 4th weekend or anything like that. It was just summer. But this is fantastic. All these links and resources right here. Obviously, call to action to his channel. You might also thought that's fantastic, to other videos that might be similar to that one. So all this is good, but we already saw this. Like there's just not a lot going on here. So it might be challenging, maybe not. I'm not saying it needs to be retention editing per se, but there could just be, I think, a better job, because she references so many things of like her viral posts or this or that. This is an opportunity for the podcast host or his team to reach out to her and be like, give me all the pictures you got that we could drip in there. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. If we go to view stats, so let's see here. I did over the last 3 months, so some of the analytics. So, just these are kind of a week at a time. So there was something going on between May 4th to 11th that caused a pretty good peak. And then the 25th to the 1st, but other than that, not super crazy there. And if we look at the last year, those peaks are the highest peaks. So it's kind of been up and down, and I would probably say some of that might have to do with shorts. I mean, the shorts are garnering the most amount of views. So that's a little bit of a challenge. But overall, I mean, it's great that you have 32,000 subscribers, 31,900 according to this apparently. But what about the revenue that you can get from that? Like, what if your videos were just a little bit better and they could do more for you than some of these times where you're getting, just not a ton of percentage of your subscribers watching. All right, let's go ahead and check out his website. Get notified, the latest money marketing ideas. No thanks, I got it. But Side Hustle Nation, yeah, I mean, this is obviously pretty clean. Ditch the 9 to 5. He's all about that. Income streams. 2-minute quiz. That's a great lead magnet. A lot of credibility here. Yeah, I mean, he walks you through what the process should be like if you want to become. Now, obviously, things have changed. This has been around for a long time, but this is obviously pretty clean. Let's check out what his podcast looks like if he has it on here. So I don't see the podcast itself on here. So he does not have an embedded player. No big deal. But this is clean. I don't really evaluate websites significantly, but, obviously a player might help. Maybe, maybe not. But here we go. Let's go to Chartable. So Apple Podcasts, United States of America business-wise, he's been pretty consistent. This is very, very consistent. A little dip right around here. Why? Because it was 4th of July weekend. No one gave a crap. July 6th ranked up to 151. Looks like he's peaked at maybe 130. And I believe in terms of entrepreneurship, he is crushing. So 47 as of today, this day. Let's see. 37 is his peak there. So that's just like fantastic. That obviously is going to help you attract sponsors. Number 872 global podcast, all reach. So he's in the top 1,000 for reach for all podcasts globally, according to Spotify. 1,392 reviews, which is fantastic. 4.7. Obviously, all of us wish it could be just 5, but oh well. So the reviews look, let's actually see some more. So I don't know. This has nothing to do with him, so that sucks, but whatever. The rest seem to be good podcast. Just wish he could find people to come on who aren't making 6 figures with their side hustle. Great episode, right? Like, you just got an episode idea from that. Can't work on my side hustle without this playing. Nick, 4-star review. I don't understand why, but Budget Divas Mystery Shopping Corner. Interesting. Okay, so bottom line, doing super well on the Chartable on the ranking side. Now let's go ahead and check out his Facebook. 60,000 members, private group. Not sure what the barriers to entry are. I'm not super interested in that anyway. But let's see. This started, group created in 2015, so it's almost 10 years old. 60,000 members is a lot, with a lot of moderators. 2 new posts today. So 71 posts in the last month out of 60,000 people. This is why I think Facebook is just like not the place anymore. Maybe, yeah, okay, you added 97 people, but that just means like more people are going to be there and less posts. So just nothing crazy there. Obviously good rules, but good for him for having this. I think it's a great place to just kind of get your people. This is his Instagram. I couldn't find anything for him. The only thing I found was this one, and it's 10 followers. So I think he just probably couldn't get the right handle or the handle he wanted. Okay, I was stuck for a second. But yeah, I mean, this is all he's got going on. So some cool things here. There's a podcast clip. I was going to say, where's his podcast clips? But it doesn't seem like there's a ton of podcast clips here, which could obviously help him a lot. And if you had your YouTube stuff was dialed, then you'd have even better clips. So Nick, if you were watching this, I don't know where the actual Side Hustle official page is, but if you had it, I'm sure it would be here. You'd link to it, but who knows? So LinkedIn, 1 month ago, I obviously went to friend him. So he's got 15.5K followers or connections, but this was about a month ago. 49 people liked it, 4 comments. 129 liked this one a year ago, 20 comments, 5 reposts, to repost it. So LinkedIn, again, man, people sleep on it, but just put some stuff up on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people who want to get out of the 9 to 5 on LinkedIn. So I feel like it would just be prudent to get on there. And I think I'm going to end it there. So look, so overall, great podcast, great host. Clearly there's consistency there. Some of the things, areas of opportunity, are some of the opportunities that are there for all of you. Take advantage of what platforms are giving you. Spotify video. If you are having guests on, maybe you want to do a test shot to see what their background is like, if they sound good, look good, anything like that. His guest choice was fantastic, and I don't think I got a chance to mention it, but the reason he had her on, which I think he had her on back in 2020 when she had just started, he had her on this episode years later because he saw her a yard sign with her company, and he decided to reach out to her. So she also has a podcast apparently, but very, very good choice with podcast guest. If I were looking at anything else on his actual Side Hustle show, on his YouTube channel, it looks like there's some 6-minute episodes. He's got a lot of varying episode lengths. This thumbnail, I'm wondering what the click-through rate is, but none of these look to be especially, I don't know. Is this inspiring curiosity is the first thing anyone would normally say when it comes to thumbnails. So I think that's a big deal. So I don't have any grading criteria for this, but there's areas of opportunity. Okay, there's areas of opportunity, and maybe some of the things that he's not leveraging is just out of making a simple, consistent, and easy workflow, which no one could hate on that. And if he's doing well as is, and that's where he wants to be, then great. Is there a chance for Google AdSense? Yes. Is there a chance for more visibility on Spotify with video? Yes. Are his guests basically his audience? Yes. And that's huge. Like, it's very niche. It's very powerful. It's very good. He's clearly in tune with who he's helping and how he's helping them. So great podcast overall. And again, like you saw, he did not have an elaborate setup at all. Like is super basic, and he's crushing. I mean, like, his ability to sponsor and get monetized here is fantastic. Now, if you want to check out an audit I did of Amy Porterfield and Jasmine Starr, who have massive online followings, and to see how that compares to Nick, go ahead and check that episode out. I think you'll get value from it just as much as you did this one, because they don't do everything perfectly either, but it's still a good show. See you next week.